All right, thanks for staying with us. If you've just joined us, let's just give you a summary quickly of what the President had to say. President Cyril Ramaphosa, in reaction to the International Court of Justice's order, he's calling on Israel to abide by the order and saying that the ICJ has vindicated South Africa, and saying that others were saying that it is not South Africa's place, but it is indeed, according to the President, South Africa's place, and saying that South Africa will not waver in its support for the Palestinian people, and saying that he's hoping for an end to the terrible loss of life that we've also seen. So let's continue with our conversation now as we get reaction to this important ruling. We speak to Kirsten Carlson, Associate Professor of International Law at Roskilde University, and Lina Gisal, also an Associate Professor of Global Political Sociology at Roskilde University. Let me thank you both for your time. It's great to speak again, twice in 1 week. It's my luck. But let's just start with, you, Kirsten, because speaking to a number of people, one of the things that they do say about this particular order is that it has mobilized international opinion on the war on Gaza. And I wonder, in your view, how then do you put all of this into context with what the court had to say earlier?
Yeah, thank you. I think that that's right. I think there are sort of two different ways you can make an interpretation about what happened today. And there is one very positive way, and that has to do with the focus that the court's work on this, that South Africa's claim has brought to the issue, and the ways in which the court, based on UN reports, really focused on the very terrible situation in Gaza and brought the empirics of that situation out and legitimized, in that sense, South Africa's claim, the concern that it's a very serious conversation, a very serious situation that needs to be addressed. And at the same time, I think myself, I'm a bit disappointed in what we saw today, because although in many ways, of course, the court could have thrown the case out. There are many ways that it could have gone that it didn't go. But the sort of central measure that South Africa was requesting was, of course, a ceasefire. A ceasefire really answers to all of the terrible things that the court took time to work through. And that was not one of the outcomes of what happened today in court. So I think that you can really see there's sort of two directions. There's two important interpretive directions you can take this.
And I'm going to come back to that in just a moment, and how much possibly that could be a disappointment to some who are looking for that, particularly on the ground in Gaza. But let me come to you, Line. When we were speaking earlier on this week, you were talking about this moment being a both political as well as legal significant. It definitely does change the course of history. But let's talk about what impact then does it also have in the nuances in geopolitics?
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you. So I think on the one hand, this case is very much an indictment of global politics, in the sense that what can we do about a situation like this? So the UN Security Council is frozen. It can't do anything because of the geopolitical situation among its permanent members. The UN General Assembly, which is another possibility, they can actually rally for a Uniting for Peace General Assembly resolution asking Israel to adopt a ceasefire, for instance, but there's unlikely to be enough votes in the General Assembly. And if there is such votes, which we saw, for instance, in relation to the Syria conflict, such resolutions would be non-binding anyway on Israel. So when these two political roads or paths are not effective, then that is why it's interesting that South Africa has mobilized, in a sense, or brought the problem to the International Court of Justice. And at the same time, we have another development, which is not gaining so much attention at the moment, but where another court, the International Criminal Court, is also investigating what is going on. So I think politically it's sort of interesting, but also problematic, of course, that any political process is very difficult to see at the moment, apart from, of course, some regional mediation involving Qatar. But at the global political level, I think what we see at the moment is that system, the international system of peace and security set up under the UN, is not working effectively at the moment. So that's one thing we can take away from this case.
Kirsten, there's some who are saying that, while others who would say that why did the court not go as far as calling for an immediate ceasefire? They're saying that, but if you look at the fact that the court has ordered Israel to take every measure in its power to prevent things that could lead to genocide or events that could lead to genocide and punish such events, others are saying, how then do you begin to do this and protect civilians if indeed you are not going to be halting your military action?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the central part of what I find pessimistic or disappointing, heartbreaking about this opinion that comes today. Because at one level, not committing genocide is already Israel's responsibility. All states who are members of the Genocide Convention need to do everything possible to be sure that they neither incite, nor permit, nor engage in genocidal violence. That's a responsibility that every state has. So at one level, and I don't want to take away from the legitimization, the importance of this case. It is an important case. There is a strong rhetoric. I think the recitation of the violence in Gaza, that recitation can have ripple effects that can be very important. Judicially, there are ways that the case could have failed that didn't. And so that, again, I don't want to take any of that away. But there is a bit of a tautology here where what the court actually ordered was, in a sense, it's more of the same. So I ask myself, where are we this afternoon where we weren't this morning? What's changed? Mm-hmm. And so perhaps some people have speculated that this increases the responsibility of people who work with Israel. So if you're an arms dealing nation, that maybe that changes your responsibility. But for me, you would always have that responsibility. The Genocide Convention already includes those ideas. I don't see how the provisional measures as issued change that.
Lynette, does it change the responsibility or the conversations that some of the allies that have been, supporting Israel are going to be having, whether behind closed doors or with Israel?
Mm-hmm. Yes, so I think it could do, because in all these countries that are allies with Israel, and that includes Denmark, where we work, there are also many citizens that are very worried and horrified by what is going on in Israel. And then there's, of course, also citizens that agree with the government line and that are very supportive of Israel. So I would expect that within these allying countries, you will have a debate where the argument on the one hand would be that the International Court of Justice has actually found it plausible that Israel is violating the Genocide Convention, because that's what the provisional measures decision came out with today. So that can actually be an argument to question the Israel supportive government line of many Western countries. So I think that the provisional measures they legitimize, like Kerstin was saying, they legitimize the South African claims about Israel and about the situation. And I think that legitimization will be then taken further in all countries of the world, to be honest, and particularly also in countries where the government have said all along that it supports Israel's right to defend itself.
Let me appreciate you both, and thank you so much for that reaction. Do appreciate your insights this evening. That was Kerstin Carlson, Associate Professor of International Law at Roskilde University, and Lena Giselle, Associate Professor of Global Political Sociology at Roskilde University as well. On the other side of 6 o'clock, we'll be having a conversation with the human rights lawyer and the International Legal Forum CEO, Arsen Ostrovsky, who is going to be giving us his reaction to this ruling.